Ho ho ho, it is Christmas time, and you know what that means? That means it's time for the Christmas alternate versions of characters. As usual, we've had a whole bunch of these already in my record, and now it is time for Exedra to also give us the Christmas units and the Christmas events and the Christmas rewards and free stuff. And they could have just copied some of the Mega Record units instead, and what they did is they gave us some Exedra units, some Sayaka and Kyouko stuff, but also copied some Mega Record stuff probably later, but we'll see about that. First off, let's go into the quality of life changes that they're going to give us. And the first one is, I mentioned this in another video before this, that they're going to give us these special costume tickets. These dollhouse tickets that you can get probably by just playing events and going into the event shops, and you can use these tickets to get, for example, new outfits or new backgrounds, new music, etc. for your dollhouse. You can get, for example, the recompense mummy outfit if you're a mummy sim, for example, if you want that. What they also gonna implement is the portrait sorting by ability, which I mentioned in the other news video, and also the 3 times a day score attack skip. That's all be coming tomorrow. Awesome. Now, something new is that they changed the checkpoints a bit for the towers. So you know how every 10 tower floors you did, you get a checkpoint, and the next time there's a new tower coming around, you get a quick start. And how far the quick start goes depends on your checkpoints, but now they've changed the checkpoints from being once every 10 floors to being once every 5 floors. And they've also changed the UI a little bit for the tower to make it easier to see what the actual rewards are for each floor, so you can see what rewards you've gotten and what rewards are about to come up in the next few levels, and that just makes it easier to see all the rewards. Nice. What else do they have? Well, they have a new system, the Crystal Skip Tickets. Now, here's how this system works. When you go into a Crystallis battle, usually one battle means like, let's say 20 QP or whatever, and then you get one battle, and then you get one reward. Or not, if you didn't get lucky. But what you can do now is you can say, I would like that one battle to count as multiple battles at once. So you can, for example, spend a ticket, and if you spend one ticket, what happens is you don't just spend the regular 20 QP, you spend 40 QP, so you spend additional QP, but now when you do that one battle, at the very end of that battle, you will get rewards not once, but twice. You'll get 2 times the rewards now at the very end. Awesome. However, you can use up to 5 of these tickets at once, meaning you spend 6 times the QP, which is like 120 QP that you spend, and you do one battle, just one battle, and then at the end of that battle, you get 6 times the rewards. So this is a way of having to spend less time farming, because now every battle can count as 6 battles instead, but each additional battle would cost one of these skip tickets, so this 6-time battle thing that I just said would cost 5 tickets. And they're going to give us these tickets probably also by playing events, but they also mentioned that they're just going to give us 100 of these tickets when the system gets implemented, and it will happen at the end of December is when this system is going to be implemented. So you have to wait until then. Well, that's also coming at the end of December. It is the Doppel Iroha model rework. It has taken some time, but they went back to the drawing board and they have really thought about this. How can they make doppel versions, not just of Iroha, but of future characters as well, in a way that doesn't take too many resources? Because of course people have thrown around, oh, what if we have special like glittering effects or whatever that have like this doppel aura? Like, what if they have the doppel aura around it, right? Or what if the doppel is behind them like a stand, like a JoJo stand, you have like the doppel behind them or whatever, or the doppel itself is standing on the field, which with some doppels is going to be absolutely massive, which probably wouldn't be a good way of doing that. So they thought really long about this, because it's taken like half a year now, but they've said, okay, what we're going to do now is we're just going to make it so the doppel design is like folded into the character design. Like, for example, you see the hair, it does weird stuff when she doppels, so the hair is now also doing weird stuff in her normal form, where she has like the little rabbit ears on the side. It looks weird, but I like it. And on the back you can see the red strands of hair that are now mixed into that. It looks pretty cool. And you can see the cape now looks different because it looks more like the cape from her doppel and all of that. And I assume that's kind of what they're going to do now for future doppel units as well, where they're basically now going to fold the doppel designs into the character as much as they can. I think it looks cool. And I can't wait for more doppel characters to have a similar design ethos. Next up, what do they mention? Well, it is time for Christmas. In fact, they're going to give us 3 Christmas events, or actually it's 2, but one of them is a 2-parter, so I guess that counts as 3 events. The first of these Christmas events I'm going to talk about in a second, but after this 2-parter Christmas event that we're about to get, there's going to be a 3rd Christmas event on the 22nd, and this one specifically says it's a Magia Record Christmas event. And there was another slide somewhere where they mentioned there's going to be limited Kyouko for all of these, which implies there's going to be a limited 5-star Kyouko for Magia Record, right? So even though we're looking at Sayaka and Kyouko today, there's going to be another one from a Magia Record character, which could be one of the Magia Record Christmas units that we've already seen from Magia Record. Who knows? Could be Holy Aina or something, who knows? But yeah, we'll have to see about that. For now though, we got Sayaka and Kyouko being gay together, and what are they doing? Well, turns out this is an alternate universe. So it's not the regular Madoka universe, it's not the Magia Record universe either. It's a very separate universe where things just work differently, right? Similar to the Halloween event where they weren't even magical girls. I think they were like sorceresses or something, so that was kind of very different. But here, whatever this alternate universe is, they're going to go on an adventure where apparently as part of the Saint Magica school that they're enrolled into, which is apparently like probably, like we don't know, but maybe it's a school for like, kind of like Hogwarts, like a school for magic and stuff, like who knows. But they've been told they have to now go around and deliver presents to people, right? But apparently this is very difficult because in this world, dangers abound. Who knows what's gonna happen? But yeah, so they're going around and delivering presents now in this alternate universe. Cool. So what do we actually get from this? Well, we have the usual event stuff, right? It's a 2-parter event. The first part's happening on 29th, right? We're gonna get the usual stuff comes with events like portraits, right? You farm, you have an event shop, etc. But also, there's going to be special Christmas-themed enemies, similar on Halloween. And oh my god, Gertrude is wearing a Christmas sweater. That is the fucking cutest thing I've ever seen on a witch. How is this so peak? How is just a fucking Christmas sweater on Gertrude being the fucking biggest thing ever? This is nice. This is nice. This is kind of like all I wanted from Exedra. It's just dumb shit that is actually peak. And this right here is the peak of dumb shit that is also peak. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And there's gonna be a score attack as well. There's gonna be a score attack against Christmas sweater Gertrude. And for that Christmas score attack, how about some Christmas characters to help you with that score attack? So, what do we have? Well, actually, before we get to that, I'm going to mention one thing. There's going to be a new link raid against the Spindle Witch. So there's a refight against the Spindle Witch on link raid, and also Mel and Mitama are coming to Standard Pool, and which also means at the end of this month is going to be once again a 24-hour free 10 roll when they get added to Standard Pool. Whatever, get that out of the way. Now we get to the actual Christmas units. We have Christmas Sayaka, or like Santa Sayaka, as more people are already calling her. The actual name is like Buon Natale. I think it's once again Italian. It's like Merry Christmas or whatever in Italian. I don't speak Italian, I'm sorry. I don't. And what is she like? Buon Natale, grazioso, yeah. What is she like? Well, she's an aqua buffer. And she works with a unique buff, which we've seen a bunch now from limited characters, that they have a unique buff that does stuff, and we also have seen unique debuffs, and we might see another unique debuff in this video. Interesting how that works with limited characters and unique stuff. Anyway, here's the way that she works. So our special crazy Santa Sayaka right here, she's going to do the following. She has a skill, and what that skill does is that skill will give everyone this special unique buff that I mentioned, and this special unique buff does the following. It just gives everyone a little bit of speed, and it also gives everyone a little bit of increased weakness damage, okay? So just some damage increases, some speed, some small stuff, but it also gives you even more damage bonus if the team's skill point number is 3 or higher currently. It's only a very small amount of bonus damage, like 10% as it says down there. But here's the thing, you might think to yourself, it might be kind of difficult to have a lot of high skill points all the time, right? Because you're spending a lot of skill points, how are you going to have 3 or more skill points all the time, right? You would need some way of getting more skill points back. Well, if you look at Sayaka's screen, you see, oh, there's a magic system. She has a magic system, and how this works is the following. When anyone on the team uses a skill, so you just saw some skill being used and the counter went up, she will get a magic whenever anyone uses a skill. And when she reaches 8 magic, she does a follow-up attack against all enemies. And this does something really cool. It gives you skill points. So whenever your team has used a combined total of 8 skills, and she does her follow-up attack, you'll gain 2 skill points. So that makes it easier to have more skill points all the time, right? That's pretty cool. So that's how that works. So what else does she do? Well, she also has a special, of course. The special gives everyone just some damage buffs. It gives like increased attack, it gives increased damage dealt, and it also gives an additional attack buff that actually stacks with itself. So the more you use this, the more powerful it will actually become. So it will become slightly more powerful each time you use the special, which is pretty cool. And that's basically the general idea, is that she is a buffer that mostly focuses around rewarding your team with some extra skill points here and there, while also having some nice damage buffs here and there sprinkled in, because of course a buffer needs to increase your damage a little bit. Awesome. She also gives herself a little bit of action advance whenever she does a follow-up attack. Not that important though. She also has a support ability, which is actually really important. So her support Kyouko ability might actually be the best part about her, to be fair. Because the thing is, yeah, the thing about limited characters is that you need to have them at high ascension for all of their crazy good ascensions, like any character. But specifically with buffers get an extremely powerful Ascension 4. Like Ascension 4 for buffers is absurdly powerful. And limited characters, you'd have to push a limited character to Ascension 4, which is quite a steep investment. So that's maybe not the greatest. But even if she's at Ascension 0, the support Kyouko, of course, still works at maximum power, right? Apart from some stats. But the support Kyouko is really good, because what the support ability does is, when you equip this to anyone, to some buffer, in this case, if you equip this to a buffer and it activates, then what it does is it gives everyone increased damage passively. Just passively, while this buffer is on the team, you now have increased damage to everyone. And you also have increased attack that actually stacks up the more you use your skill. So I think we says it right here. Yeah, when you or an ally activates a combat skill, all allies' attack power increases by 1.5% to cumulative 10 times. So yeah, just by equipping this on some other buffer, now that buffer increases everyone's damage and increases everyone's attack, which might make it one of the best support Kyouko for buffers next to Tsuruno's, of course. Which means that the top 2 are now going to be Tsuruno and Santa Sayaka, and then all the other buffer support Kyouko come like after that. So even if you are kind of, even if you don't like the fact that the buffer A4, Ascension 4, is so powerful, and not having it because she's limited, and it's really difficult to get limited to A4, even if you don't like that, you can still just get one copy of her. Maybe you get lucky on the free 10 roll, and then you can just use her as a support Kyouko on other people. Yeah, what else does she do? Well, of course, she has an EX Crystallis as well, and the EX Crystallis does the following. It just gives her a little bit more MP when she uses her skill, and it also gives her a little bit more speed, depending on how many allies currently still have her unique buff on it. Okay, you can see a unique buff. It looks like a sled symbol, like a sleigh. Awesome. That's basically how the Santa Sayaka works. Overall, she seems pretty decent. I wouldn't say she's overpowered or anything. If she was standard, and I could say, oh, at some point, since she's standard, you're going to get her Ascension 4, and then she's going to be really good. I can't really say that. So I will say that as far as buffers go, she might be one of the worst buffers, just because she's limited. Not because of her stats or what she does, just because she's limited. And because buffer A4 is just so incredibly overpowered, right? And not having access to something so overpowered kind of sucks. But outside of that, if we ignore that part, if we ignore the Ascension 4 problem, she's really good. Like, she's probably up there as a really good buffer, and specifically she does something unique, as in granting more SP to the team, something similar to Muemura, except Muemura needs those skill points for herself, but Sayaka allows the team to have those skill points instead, so that's pretty good. So yeah, overall pretty decent, pretty solid. And now we move from someone who's very solid to maybe a bit overpowered, because that's not the only character that we've been told about. Yeah, there's also the cramping Kyouko. So Krampus Kyouko right here, she has a tail, by the way. She has a really bushy tail, and between that and her werewolf outfit that she had in my record, she's not going to beat the furry allegations anytime soon. So Krampus Kyouko is the following. She's a flame debuffer. Now, they didn't show any gameplay for her, and they didn't talk much about her. They just showed us her kit, and then they moved on and talked about other stuff, but at least we have her kit, so she's a flame debuffer, and she works in a really interesting way in that she has a special debuff, like a unique debuff. So she uses her skill, and when she uses her skill, it hits 3 targets, and those 3 targets then have a special unique debuff on them, right? It's called like Holy Nitrile or whatever they want to call it. And this unique debuff stacks. So it starts at 1 stack, but it can stack up higher and higher, up to 10 stacks. And what it does is it reduces enemies' attribute like resistance. So for example, flame resistance, light resistance, etc. All of those resistances get reduced, and they get reduced by more the more stacks of this debuff is on them. It also makes them take increased damage, and when you reach maximum stacks, the damage increase jumps up and becomes even more powerful. So you can get a crap ton of damage increase already just by stacking this debuff up. Now you could stack the debuff up just by hitting the enemy multiple times with her skill, but that's really slow because that's 10 stacks and you only get 1 per skill. That's pretty slow. But here's what also happens. So the skill also burns the enemy. And then we come to her passive. So her passive says when you attack an enemy, and this has to be Kyouko, it has to be you, when Kyouko attacks an enemy that already has this debuff on it, it just adds another stack to the debuff. Awesome. Then it also burns the target. Okay, so now the target can have up to 2 burns on it, by the way, because this burn is a passive burn and this is an active burn, and you can actually have both of them at the same time. Mifuyu work the same way, and Halloween Mami, I think, yeah, also work the same way with 2 buffs. No, Halloween Alina also works the same way. So we have like 3 or 4 characters that can have like 2 debuffs like that now on the enemy. And here's how that works. So why is it important that the enemy has to be burned? Well, if Christmas Kyouko attacks a burning enemy, she will gain follow-up attack. And this follow-up attack is just another hit of damage on everyone, which also gives a little bit of action advance. So why is it important to get a follow-up attack? Well, a follow-up attack counts as attacking the enemy, therefore bonus stack of debuff. Oh, I see. Okay, so you put debuff on the enemy with her skill, which burns the enemy, which double burns the enemy if you then just generally attack the enemy. So the enemy is definitely going to be burning. And then when the enemy is burning, you get bonus stacks from activating your follow-up attacks and from just dealing damage normally, which means that once the enemy has this debuff on it and you attack it once, you get a stack from the attack, you get a stack from the follow-up. That's 2 stacks for the price of 1. And that allows you to stack it quite quickly. And on top of that, you can stack it even faster, because guess what? Your special is also a hit, so the special also adds a stack. But on top of that, the special reduces enemy defense and gives you an additional follow-up attack, which means that the follow-up attack from the special also gives another stack. So let's say, for example, you use a normal attack, and then you use an immediate special afterwards. Both the normal attack is going to get a follow-up, and the special is going to get a follow-up. That's a total of 4 stacks that you get from just normal attack into special. So that's how you get a lot of stacks from for the debuff. And yes, the follow-up attack from the special also gives 10% action order reduction for the enemy, but that's not going to happen that often, but it's nice. It's a nice thing to have as a little bonus. So that's basically how the debuff for Kyouko works, is you want to stack that debuff up and up and up by applying it, and then just repeatedly hitting the enemy with Kyouko, and that gives you more and more stacks. Awesome. Then she also has a pretty decent support ability, although there's better ones out there. It gives some speed and some MP using special move. Not that great, actually, to be fair. Maybe not that great. And then you have her EX as well, which gives you a stacking speed buff whenever you use your skill, which is alright. But more importantly, it also gives you, whenever you get a follow-up attack, a stacking attack buff. And she actually has a pretty decent amount of attack, so she can actually do a decent amount of damage. Not on the same level as something like a Swimsuit Sayaka or a Ren, nothing like that, but still a non-negligible amount of bonus damage that you can dish out, because she does get somewhat frequent follow-up attacks, and she does do decent amount of damage, generally with that high base attack, and with the EX she gets even more, and speed on top of that, so you're gonna use the EX, it's gonna look nice, awesome, looking pretty good. Now her A2 just makes it so she can stack her stuff a little bit faster, specifically when you use your skill, and it also gives her, and I want to make sure to stress this, gives herself bonus damage when she hits a target that also has the debuff on it, which means that her damage becomes even more important. But like I said, you're still not going to rival Ren, for example, or Swimsuit Sayaka or anything like that, but still it makes her pretty decent. Now all of that mentioned, how good is she? Well, I've done some maths on her actual damage amplification that she gives the team. And even at Ascension 0, now this is, by the way, I don't know if the defense reduction from her special increases with special level, because if it does, this is not accurate, but if she already does the 20% defense reduction at special level 1 already, then she already does a grand total of, with maximum stacks on the enemy, 110% damage increase for your team. To put that into perspective, Ren at A0 is 85% damage increase. So she's better than A0 Ren when she's A0. Like this is, like I said, this is imagining if her special already has 20% defense reduction at level 1. And if we go all the way to A5, Ascension 5, of course at Ascension 4 you get the increased damage amplification from your debuffs, right? So that your debuffs applied become stronger. And for Ren, that means she goes from 85% at A0 to 137% at A5, but Krampus Kyouko goes from 110% to about 159%. So her damage amplification that she gives the team is noticeably higher than Ren does. It's not quite as high as Halloween Mummy, because Halloween Mummy at Ascension 5 is like 200% damage increase. But we're talking about limited units, and you're probably not going to get limited units to high Ascension anyway, so Also keep in mind that, of course, Ren does other stuff like insane amounts of damage herself, and while Krampus Kyouko also does decent damage, like I said, it's not the same type of damage, and then also gets a lot more follow-up attacks and generally more attacks which can synergize with some other kits or counter some other bosses more than Krampus Kyouko does. So it's not quite a same-to-same comparison between these two characters, but they do both give a really high amount of damage increase against multiple targets, because just like Ren, she also is proximity in her affliction. But the one downside that Krampus Kyouko has is that she needs to stack up that debuff first. So you need to put that debuff on the enemy, then you need to hit the enemy repeatedly, use more skills if you want to spread it out more, if you want to spread it faster. And it takes a while. It takes a while to get those stacks up, and she only really gets most of that damage reduction when the stacks are high, because before the stacks are high, her damage increase is actually not very high. She actually has really bad damage amplification until her debuff is fully stacked, and then it pops in and bam, now you're doing a lot more damage. That's really important. But yeah, she seems extremely good. Now, if we ignore the limited tag, similar how we did earlier with Sayaka, and imagine what if she was not limited, she would be up there as the second best debuffer in the game next to Ren, in my opinion. So she's really good. At Ascension 0, she's still really good, right? Even at Ascension 0, her damage amplification that she provides to the team is insanely high, so you can just use her at Ascension 0 and just have really high damage amplification. But keep in mind, she needs to stack that debuff up first, so you have to do that, okay? So yeah, that was the Christmas news. Like I mentioned, there will be another Christmas event at the end of the month for my record, and there will be another news stream for that. But for now, we're gonna get Christmas Sayaka tomorrow. 2 weeks later, Christmas Kyouko. And there's not gonna be a full news for Christmas Kyouko. They're just probably gonna just drop the kit for Kyouko, like the actual kit video, I mean, for Kyouko. And that's probably all that's going to be happening. But of course, that means I'm going to be streaming the game tomorrow. I hope I'll see you guys there for all the new score attack and for the Christmas Sayaka rolls and everything. And then, of course, I'm going to be streaming for the Christmas Kyouko reveal probably as well, and those rolls. But I hope I'll see you then, at least tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, become a member today. And a shout out to my members, Chai Bean, Rip Van Winkle, and Simpletor. Thank you very much.